for the meeting. The SSID is GSLC Mac Club, and the password would be Apple Access. So again, that would be Wi-Fi login information. And let's see. I got Decker, just sort of knows just, when you guys are ready, let me know. I'll start. Go ahead. And I'll just keep talking in the meantime. Okay. Oh. It is a pleasure to be here today, because I didn't think I was going to make it through December. My mother-in-law's house is now rented. The furniture is out. All the other stuff is out. And other than the fact that the last truck coming north, my wife was driving that, was December 23rd.
Ah.
That was sort of a trip. Anyway, we're done with that.
Does that break all your connections to my hometown, Louisville?
Is that my connection?
Does that break your connections?
No, my wife has family down there, and since she's the one who's executor of the estate and the house is being rented, Thoreau said that when you gain a house, you gain a master. And of course, he was talking during the time of the peculiar institution, slavery, so he didn't mean master as in master, but rather master. Well, if you're renting a house, it's not much better. Okay, so even though my wife assured me that there would be absolutely no reason for me to have to do anything with the house from this point on. So with that said, let me bring up our agenda here. Okay, so welcome to meeting number 266. Let's see if I actually have got the routine down after doing it for 20-something years. Okay, so the agenda, the main presentation is going to be Apple Photos, MacOS, macOS, I keep on with the accent, macOS, the editing tools. Okay, and if anybody has brought stuff that they want to do one-on-one, Chuck is here if you want to do one-on-one when we're doing the main presentation. I have a feeling everybody's going to stay for the main presentation. Okay. So after that, we've got news. Okay, the Apple news I know is mostly financial and legal and HR. There's all sorts of people who were working for Apple that have left to go to work for other state operations like Tesla and Samsung and other things like that. The fellow that was the main proponent, head honcho of AppleScript, the Apple Automation Technologies, has left now. And it's not really clear where the role of automation is going to be going forward with the operating systems. So for those of us who have relied on that stuff for workflows, automated workflows, it's not a good thing for us. Okay, financials. Apple did not meet their own projections of revenue. So Tim Cook took a hit on his salary for that one. And they're not, well, their Mac sales are okay, especially when you compare it to what's happening with everyone else that's doing PC sales. The desktop, laptop market is dwindling, shrinking day by day. So as Apple maintains its sale of machines, that means they're actually gaining more market share as the other ones dwindle. So legal-wise, Samsung, Apple, iPhone suit. The one that was off, and then it was on, and then it went to the European Union, and then it went to the U.S. Supreme Court. Now it's back on again, and they're trying to determine the damages. Of course, what's happened between when the original verdict of $2.7 billion in damages, since then Samsung has had a dramatic drop in its share price, the book value of its company. They may not have $2.7 billion in cash that they can give it. So it'll be interesting to see how they negotiate that one out. So, and I find it sort of disheartening when instead of doing technology improvements, advancing interfaces, making things better, starting to do new things, instead everybody's focused on who holds what patent for what and how much money they can get from this patent, even though they don't have a company that does anything with the patent anymore. So that sort of stuff. But then, you know, I worked in the newspaper industry for 15 years, so I'm used to a steady, continuous decline in the paper industry. Okay. Yeah, okay. All right. Anybody else have any news they want to share? Going once, going twice. Nobody has any news they want to share? Okay. Yeah.
I thought it was interesting, Sal Scorin, who was the guy who was talking about the AppleScript guy. He's writing now.
Yeah, Sal.
He's writing now for Mac Stories, and he actually published an article this week. So it's just interesting, he's surfaced, and he's actually created content for a website. I just thought it was interesting. His first article was really, really good.
Okay. Well, if we're talking about Sal Scorin,
Yeah.
I mean, wow. There, you would not have a web industry today without the scripts that he wrote back then. He's the first guy that got that whole automated workflow going. Wow. Before that, it was like, find a picture, crop the picture, put the picture here, you know, just, it was very, very tedious.
It's clear from his first article that he really wants to be an advocate for that part of the market, so to speak.
And what I see is basically Apple removing itself from enterprise business to business stuff. They have turned into a consumer electronics company with a heavy reliance on revenue from the iPhone. So, you know, hey, it worked out well for research in motion with their BlackBerry. You know, you just put all those. Okay. So anyway. You're allowed to tell me to stop kvetching about Apple too. So, what do we got in the way of for sale, wanted, and freebies? Yes, Dave.
I know Christmas is past, but I come bearing freebies. If anybody's interested, there's a Blu-ray, internal Blu-ray drive over on Freebie. And if you don't have a older MacBook Pro that has internal drives, you can certainly put it in an external case and connect it to your machines that way.
Is it a reader or a burner?
It's both. It's a
Blu-ray burner?
it'll burn DVDs,
Okay, got it.
but it is also M-Disc compatible.
Okay,
So you have that software. What I don't have with me is a 22-inch ADC Mac Apple display. It's an ADC display. There's a few shortcomings with it, but it is functional. If you want to talk to me at the break, it's also for free. So.
okay. Anybody else got anything that they brought in? You know, I would remind you, if you got new stuff for Christmas, you might want to go through your old stuff and say, oh, do I still need, 14 USB cables, or do I need this, or do I need that? Just to sort of simplify your life, get rid of the clutter from the man that's got 2 households crammed into one house. So, don't do what I'm doing right now.
Bill,
Okay, what else we got? Yeah.
over on the raffle table, there's free licenses for Camera Plus from Global Delight. So if anybody would like a license, just take one of those slips of paper. I think they have to be activated by February. I forget what the date is, but it's on that piece of paper.
And what does that piece of software do?
Well, it gives you additional functionality for your camera. I forget exactly what the new things it does. But
For
it's
your
free.
camera or for your?
No, it's for your iPhone or iPad. It's an
okay,
iDevice,
got it.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so it's iOS?
Yes.
Okay, got it. All right, anybody else? Yeah, we're a high-energy crowd today. We're just waiting for the freezing rain to come in. Okay, so we did for sale, wanted, and freebies. Anybody had anything they were looking for? Everybody says, everybody's got too much stuff. Okay, got it. Now we're gonna move on to help desk. Yes, Dan?
A couple of weeks ago, I used Chrome
Okay.
and turned it off, and then when I booted back up later, Chrome appears.
Okay.
In fact, with the same thing open. So I close it and I shut down my computer.
Yeah.
Ever since, it's kept open, and I can't figure out, I've looked up startup, how to keep this
Okay.
thing from starting up without
There's
using a
two
gun.
different ways that it could be occurring. And with your permission, I will sit at the computer and show you both.
Okay.
Okay. So let me get this out of the screen here. Alrighty. So let's fire up Chrome. Okay, so I got Chrome is running. Now, the next thing I want to do real quick is I want to have my dock where it's visible. Because we're going to zoom in on that dock. And I want the dock, and I want it on the bottom, and I want it to be visible. Automatically hide. Okay. This is when I do my zoom in and then go all the way down. So here's my dock, and there's Chrome.
Okay.
So I'm holding down my mouse button, and in here it's got some options. Let me just zoom out just a little bit, get myself centered a little bit. All right, so I'm holding down, and it's got options. Keep in dock, open at login, show in Finder. Okay. All right. Now, if I let go of my trackpad at that point, and I go back in to look at that stuff, you'll see there's a check mark in front of it. Okay. So that's one way that things can be set to automatically launch. And the way you would turn it off is by going back to where it says open and login and clicking again, and now it's no check mark in front.
Okay.
Conversely, you can also have an app stay in your dock whether it's running or not by selecting that first item. Go back in, see now we got a check mark in front of it. That means it'll stay in my dock even if I quit it. So now I'll tell it to quit, and we'll see there's Chrome. It has no little dot underneath, so Chrome is staying in my dock, but it's not running. All right, now, there's other stuff that can be set to automatically be launching when you're turning on your computer. For those, we want to go to our system preferences. So we're in system preferences, and we go to user and groups. Hello, there we go. I'm going to unlock mine, just because I haven't done that for a while. There we go. Okay, so we're in system preferences, we're looking at user and groups, and I've clicked on me, okay, my user account. So we got two buttons here, password and login item. Login item. So right now, there's two things that are set to automatically start off when I log into my account. One is iTunes Helper, and the other one is the Clean My Mac menu. Okay. Now, sometimes these things can be running but be hidden. All right, so you can also tell it to show or hide stuff. So if I don't want the Clean My Mac menu to run anymore, I would click on it and then click on the minus. If I click on the little box that's right next to it, because we always want to click on the box that's right next to the thing, all it's going to do is hide it, but it'll still be running. We don't want to do that. We want to actually click on it, and then if you want to add things, we could have an application or whatever. I'll just do a cancel on that because I don't want to screw it up anymore than I already have. Okay, so some of the annoying programs that may automatically launch when you log in are going to be these cloud programs like Amazon Drive, Dropbox, Google Drive, Microsoft one, OneDrive, Microsoft OneDrive. Okay, so you start up your laptop, you're at Skyline Chili. Okay, you're not on a really heavy pipe for internet access, and you wonder why it's taking forever for this thing to sort of start up and be doing its thing. Well, it's trying to talk to Dropbox and Amazon Drive and Google Drive and OneDrive, and that takes bandwidth and that takes CPU cycles, and if you're doing it on a very small straw, think of like instead of pipe, straw, it's going to take it a long time to do it. So those are typically things that I do not have automatically launching whenever I turn on my computer. Okay?
And what you do have automatically launching might be your antivirus stuff and so
Yeah.
forth.
Yeah. Typically, they actually become, it depends on the vendor. With antivirus, anti-adware, and I'm just going to say malware, okay, as a generic term, if they're done right, they actually become part of the operating system. So if the computer is operating the antivirus, the anti-malware, your cybersecurity guard, if you will, is also on the clock doing their rounds. Let me pick another one
The
here.
one thing that you had running, or had listed there was iTunes Helper.
Yeah.
Why does that need to be up there?
It doesn't need to be there. It's one of those annoying things. I'm kvetching. If anybody wants me to stop, just tell me to stop.
No.
How much money does Apple make through the iTunes store?
Buku billions.
Okay. And how much money does Apple make selling movies and renting movies and selling TV shows and audiobooks and all of that other stuff? Buku bucks, right? So they want iTunes on the Mac, which is also your entry into the iTunes store, to be up and running and ready to go at a moment's notice.
Okay. So I want
Okay.
to get rid of that.
Um,
Unless I'm buying a lot of things through iTunes.
If, for example, I would get rid of it if I wasn't using iTunes as my music player anymore. Now, you're not getting rid of it, you're just saying, I don't want this thing to automatically launch when I turn on the computer. So it's very similar. How many of you have used a Windows PC? Okay. So you start up your PC, and last week when you would start it up, you'd had time to maybe go get a cup of coffee real quick and hurry back to your desk and it's ready to go. And this time you went and you got a cup of coffee and you came back and it was still loading, and then you come back and it's still loading. Well, these sorts of extra things get added on by different companies' software, all right? And typically it's all marketing stuff. So it's saying, hey, I'm here, I'm running Adobe Creative Cloud Suite, and I need to talk to the home ship and bring up all of these other things. And oh, by the way, did you know we have this new program you can buy for only $200 that'll let you do wonderful things. So one of the primary utilities that people will use on a PC is something that will clean the startup process. It takes all those things and defers them so they only launch if you're running the program. Okay. So if I have it where iTunes Helper doesn't automatically launch, when I launch iTunes, it'll go into memory. Okay.
So you said you can get an app or something that will require it only to come on when you open the program?
Yeah, and for example, you had the problem that Google Chrome
Yeah.
was automatically launching
Yeah.
whenever you turned on and logged into the computer.
Right.
Well, we didn't remove Chrome. What we said is, no, I don't want you to be up and doing anything unless I tell you. So it's sort of like you've got a large mansion and you've got a chauffeur and you don't need him sitting there in the driveway, in the car with the motor running every time you open the front door.
I thought you said there was a program that did that, but there's a process.
That would be for like PCs.
Oh, for PCs.
Because with PCs, they tend to sort of want to push the other programs to the side and they fight for memories. It gets ugly real quick. Okay, so anyway, we got that one covered. Anybody else got anything else for help desk? I'm going to stand up again. Yes, John?
Can you set up your hard drives so that you need a password to get into your hard drives that are on your computer?
Yes, you can.
How do you do that?
Typically, you need to use a third-party utility.
Okay.
Okay. Now, there's different ways of doing it. You can have it where the hard drive just doesn't automatically mount when you turn on the computer. You have to tell it to mount. Okay. Programs that'll let you do that, Technical Pro is one of them, will allow you to have a hard drive not auto-mount. And it'll also hide it, so you basically you're not seeing it. Okay. Another way to do it would be, okay, you want it where you gotta have a password. Another way of doing it would be using entire drive encryption technology. Now there's some dangers to using that.
Yeah.
Okay. So I typically don't try and go for the entire hard drive being encrypted, because if one thing gets bad, it turns into total crap. Okay. Steaming pile dog poop. Okay. So instead, what I recommend is, how much do you have that you want to have secured up? Are we talking a little bit of stuff, or are we talking about tons and tons of stuff?
Probably not a lot.
Okay. Instead of having the entire hard drive password protected, let me just stop for 1 second. If you use Seagate or Western Digital hard drives, they have a utility that'll let you put a password on the drive. You got to know a password to be able to access it. We're putting that to the side. Instead, what I would suggest is a more modest solution, which would be a DMG file that's got a password on it. So a disk image file is like a folder, okay, that can, get bigger or smaller according to how much stuff you put in it. But in order to open it, you got to have a password. Let me show you how you create one of those. Okay, so the first thing would be, and here is where I'm hoping that they didn't change the disk utility app where you can't use it to do this thing. Okay, so I'm in the utilities folder of my applications folder, and I've launched Apple Disk Utility. So it comes with your Macintosh computer. And I'm going to go up to File, and I'm going to say New Blank Image. Okay, so now what it says, it comes up with this big drop-down box. So first thing it wants to know is, what do you want to call it? So just like when you create a new folder, it calls it Untitled Folder, and you have to give it a name. Untitled DMG, we're going to call it John. Okay. So we're just going to do J-O-H-N. Okay, so we give it a name, it's John. Next thing down. This whole section, it wants to know, where do you want to save this thing? Okay, this disk image file. And I'm going to say, hey, you know what? On the desktop. So when it creates it, it'll be john.dmg, and it'll save it on the desktop. Because typically, whenever I'm working with stuff, I want it on the desktop, because I can find it. Okay. Then down here is where we can get in and we can give it additional specifications. So the name is Untitled. I'm going to put it there. Now we're going to call it John's Super Secret Disk.
Yeah, call it finish it yourself.
Yeah, we'll just call it John's Super Secret. Okay, and underneath it wants to know how big to make it. I'm going to say 100 megabytes in size. I can make it larger, but I'm thinking, you know, I'm probably just going to throw in some tax returns, maybe some pay stubs, some stuff from the brokerage accounts, you know, financial stuff, and I don't want, you know, anybody to be able to get to it. And then the format we wanted in, and then encryption, 256-bit AES. Now, John's squinting, so that means he couldn't see it. I was right in here, and I clicked on the double arrows, and one of my choices was 256-bit. That's pretty good encryption. Okay, it's almost government quality. Now, as soon as I did that, this box came up. It said, what do you want the password to be? So it's not saying, what is your password? It's saying, when I put the password on this file, and you want to open it, what do you want the password to be? Password. All right, so we're going to use, you ready?
What is choose?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Just as good.
And then I'm going to, got to put in a second time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, nobody's going to tell, right? All sworn to secrecy. Okay. And then the last thing down here is just some other gobbledygook about that you want it to be a modern partition map image, and that's all technical stuff. But this one is important, where it says image format. We want it to be a read and write disk format. So this is like we're creating a magic CD. Remember, disk image means like a virtual disk, like a virtual CD, a virtual flash drive, virtual hard drive. But we want to be able to read and write to it. Now, if I was saving this as an archive thing, like I need to bring this stuff into a courtroom maybe 10 years from now, I would have made it read-only so it couldn't be modified. So that I could say to the judge, you know, Judge, I created this DMG 10 years ago and put those documents in it, and it was created as a read-only. You know, so it couldn't have been modified since then. And then we say choose, and then we say save. Okay, and it's going to create that 100 megabytes in size.
Is that extensible then, or is it fixed at 100?
I don't know anymore. It used to be they were extensible as you put stuff in, but I'm kvetching again. They boogered up disk utility, so I don't know what it does anymore.
Easy thing.
Okay, so it said operation successful. John has been created. So now I'm going to quit disk utility. Now on my desktop, right over here, let me get this. There's this thing right there, John DMG, and it looks like the sort of application installers that we download from the internet all the time. If I go to double click on it,
It's already open.
It's right above it.
yeah, okay, it's already open. Sorry, here. Let me eject it. I want to see if it did take the password. I got to put in the super secret password. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Press return. Boom! It opens it up. So we got the disk image, and then we got it where it's opened up. That acts almost like it's a hard drive or a folder. We can throw stuff in there. And then when we're done, we tell it to eject, to dismount, just like we would a CD or a hard drive or whatever. And once we tell it to do that, let me just real quick, option drag here. We'll just put a couple special things in there. Close out the window, tell it to eject, boom. So now you've got, if you will, a folder that's got a password on it. Except it's a lot more secure. It's an actual file that's encrypted. So instead of encrypting an entire hard drive, it's just one folder, just one thing.
So Bill, if you back up your drive, well, it'll be backed up with everything else.
Right, because it's a file on my desktop.
Right.
So if my desktop is getting Time Machine back up or whatever, you know, Veritas or, you know, what Retrospect, whatever you're using as your backup utility, it gets backed up. The other use for this is let's say I want to be really secure, okay? I might take that file and put it on a flash drive, and then put the flash drive in a fire safe. So for example, let's say I had a disaster day file. You know, who is my lawyer? What are my assets? What are my liabilities? I mean, you know, the bank account, you know, how to log in, what the login is, what's the password, all that stuff. And put it all in that, and then have it password protected in a DMG, and then on a flash drive, and then that's in a fire safe.
You take the password to the outside of the fire.
Say it again. What?
I said, and then take the password to the DMG to the outside of the fire safe.
Yeah, yeah.
Don't want to forget it.
So you made that 100 meg, but you were saying it would grow and shrink, so with a lot of, if you put more than
It's,
100 meg
they
in
used
there?
to, I'd have to actually try it again.
Okay, so if you needed to go in and change the size, you'd have to take everything out and then change the size and put it back in?
You would, if it's automatically extensible, as you put stuff in, the sack just gets bigger,
Right.
okay? If it's got a fixed limit on it, then I'd have to maybe create a new one, you know?
Or take everything out, make it bigger, and put it all back in?
Yeah.
Because you can't leave it there when you recreate it.
Or if I'm really lazy, I take the DMG file and put it in the new bigger one that I've got. So I'd have a DMG file for 2014 and another one for 2015, another one for 2016, and have it all within another DMG file, which is also encrypted.
Put more passwords for it.
Yeah, more passwords.
Layers and layers.
Okay, so the thing to remember is that passwords are like house keys. They're to aid you in going in and out of your house in a timely fashion. They're not designed to frustrate you when you're trying to get in and out of your house. So,
Bill?
so if you had, let me just finish. If you had a house key and it never really worked in the front door, would you keep the house key? No. If you have a password that you invariably forget, would you keep that password? No. So when it's these sorts of one-time, you know, file-type passwords, pick stuff that you're going to remember.
Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Or, you know, the fellow that was in charge of, this is almost skating on political, but the guy that was in charge of Hillary Clinton's campaign, on his 6 email accounts, his Democratic National Committee account, etc., his password was password, all lowercase.
Oh, my God.
This is the one the Russians supposedly hacked. And I'm going like, you know, okay, just,
Call it hacking when they get in that way.
and this is something that I have seen with senior level people that didn't grow up with computers. They don't get this stuff, you know, and so they think password is a secure password. Let me go to Ray, because Ray was speaking.
I want to continue on this for
Sure.
a second.
Do
As
you want me
far
to
as a file of critical information, if you didn't have a Mac to recover it on,
Mhm.
are there utilities that can read DMGs on Windows and Linux
Okay.
boxes? Would it make sense to partition it DOS format, but still got the password?
I would be more likely to just, instead of saving it as a .dmg file, to save it as a .iso file,
Mhm,
which is a sort of a universal, more common format,
mhm.
because the .dmg file is just a special case of an ISO.
Do ISOs have a password, a convention for a password?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Very few people know that, very few people use it, but yes. The other thing you can do is, instead of doing it this way, because the situation that John had presented to me, it's sort of like, I want to have this thing more on a more permanent basis, a place where I can stash my stuff on an ongoing basis. But let's say I just want to transmit some files as an email attachment to somebody else, but I don't want anybody who intercepts it to be able to open it. Where I see it used most is with electronic books, where I buy the electronic book, they send me an email with a link, or maybe with the book on it, and then they tell me it's zipped and there's a password. And they tell me what the password is.
Yeah, I understand the zip passwords aren't very strong, that encryption isn't very strong anymore.
Well, neither are the locks on the front door of my house, but they're good enough.
Yeah, depending on what it is.
You know, a bump key is not going to open my front door. However, my neighbor, yes, but not mine. Okay, so it's like one level up from a standard Slade Schiller lock.
Yeah, I'm just saying that the DMG encryption is much stronger than.
Very much stronger, very much stronger.
Because it's not AES or anything like that.
Correct.
With zip.
Correct. Okay. Yes, I'll go to Bill.
I'm still trying to understand the file size component of it. If I create a DMG of 2 gigabyte,
Yeah.
and I put a 2 megabyte file in it and close it, how much space is that going to take up on my computer?
I think it's done.
Oh, this is where we find out whether it actually is extensible or not.
So if I put
Well, they
nothing,
may have allocated
if I
that.
put nothing in the file, it's still going to be.
And I'm looking, it's 100 megabytes. It would be 100 megabytes. So this thing, even if nothing's in it, is 100 megabytes, because I said it's a 100 megabyte file. Now, sometimes you do that so people don't know how much stuff is in a file. If it always looks like it's 100 megabytes, they can't tell if there's something in it or not.
If you made a 2 gigabyte file, it would still take up 2
Correct.
gigabytes of space that was empty.
Correct. Right. The ones that I'm used to are the ones where it expands and contracts depending on how much stuff is in it. Now, is this boring, everybody?
No,
Is
no,
this an
very
okay topic? Okay. Then let me just try one other thing here real quick. Let me go back into disk utility. So I'm going to say new blank image, rewritable, single, size.
Can you make that bottom part just a little bit bigger? It's hard to read from back there. That's great. Thank you.
Sorry. Yeah. What I'm looking to see is, no, they have it where you have to give it a size. So let me try something else here. What if I do new image, okay, I gotta close this out, basic cancel. File, new image from folder. So I've already got a folder with stuff in it, and I want to create a DMG from that folder. So I'm going to click on the TMG materials folder and say open. Okay, and then if I say, hey, yeah, I want 256-bit encryption, and I also want it to be, let me do a cancel there for a second. I want it to be read-write. That's that bottom one. Let me just zoom in here real quick. That bottom choice is hybrid, image, HFS, ISL, UDF. That'd be your more generic. Okay. So I say read and write, and then I'm going to say, hey, yeah, I want it to be 256-bit encryption. I'm going to zoom back out. I'm going to put a password on it. 123456. 123456. I'm going to say choose, and I'm going to give it another one, which I'm just going to call folder, F-O-L-D-E-R. Save. Okay, now this one, because it's being created from a folder, this is the one where it's going to enlarge or shrink depending on how much stuff I put in it. So they changed how you do it. You got to do it from an existing folder to get it where it's a variable, dynamic versus static size. Dynamic versus static. And it said it's successful. So I'll click done. So let's see if I got something I can throw in that real quick. So right now that folder DMG is 3.4 meg in size. So what I'm going to do is double click it, put in the super secret password 123456. So now I've got that DMG open, And let's go into something like our shared folder. We'll go in here. Okay, so now we've got some TV episodes in here. Let's drag that one in. Because there isn't enough free space.
It created it for the size of the folder.
Yeah. Okay, I was hoping that would be extensible. So this is, again, another one of those things that I think they boogered up.
So
In
you're
the
stuck.
past,
Try and
with
copy it in
previous,
the other one, the first
with
one.
previous disk utilities, it would make it so that it would expand or contract depending on the size of the contents.
So in this case, you're stuck with the folder that you
Yeah.
started with. You'd have to take something out in order to put something in there.
Or revert back to a less problematic operating system than Sierra, like Yosemite. Okay. So that was nice. It was just, I apologize for burning up time, but these are the sorts of things that just frustrate the heck out of me.
But hidey holes like this are very useful.
Change my world.
But hidey holes like this are very useful.
Yes, yes.
And that's where I keep my password list.
No, what I was saying was frustrating was not having a secure folder that you can put stuff into, or a secure DMG. What I find annoying is when Apple changes things, but doesn't really tell us how they changed them. So I could do the same thing with Toast Titanium and create an ISO and put a password on it, and I can have it where it still does the expand or contract. Okay, so anyway, so let me close that up. Yeah, go for it, Ray, go for it.
All right. I got just a couple questions. Let's make them brief. Can I remove Flash or do something about that constant bombardment of updates?
Yeah, you can remove Flash.
I can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Typically, if you're going to remove Flash, you're going to be going into your applications folder, and then from there into your utilities folder. And in there should be, Adobe Flash Player Manager, and you can uninstall Flash with that.
All right.
Now, with that said, if the second part of the question is, can I uninstall Java the same way? The answer would be no.
Okay.
Java is considered to be a programming language, and pieces of it are built into Unix. Or let's say Unix has pieces that Java uses.
All right.
So you can never completely get rid of Java.
The other question I have has a little bit of explanation to it. I have 3 computers sitting on 2 desks.
Okay.
And I've got 2 close to 10-year-old, an iMac and a MacBook on one desk.
Okay.
And I've got my new MacBook Pro on mine.
Okay.
So rather than get up and walk over to that desk and open something up, I've got screen sharing.
Okay.
And I found that to be really handy because I wanted to take information that was on my old MacBook and send out a mailing. So I connected with my MacBook Pro, tried to get the thing all set up because I've been doing it for years, and things got all messed up. I don't know what happened. And then I said, okay, I'll go over to the other desk and just get this job done and figure things out later. And it kept asking me for my Apple ID. And when I put it in, the only one I've ever had, it says this isn't good. So finally, after hours of fooling with this thing, I called AppleCare. One of the things they said to me was, well, I think your Apple ID has expired.
Okay.
Well, there's times when you're getting information and
Yeah.
you're ignorant of the true facts, but a statement is made saying, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Nobody in all these years has ever mentioned that. Well, they helped me get a whole new ID, which in a way is more secure than what I had. But this all started with me, with my MacBook Pro trying to control my old MacBook, and sounds like machine gun fire and all kinds of things happen.
Okay.
So we've got them all straightened out now. But the main thing on it is the Apple ID, can it expire, or can something, what
To the
wiped
best
it out
of
of?
my knowledge, no.
Never heard of that.
Apple IDs are stored and maintained in a system called SAP from the West Germans, okay? And most of these commercial, because remember, some Apple IDs have iTunes purchases associated with them, they've got movies, TVs, okay. And because you may have purchases associated with it, no, they can't just delete it. What does happen, though, is I'm working with a customer. He's logging in with his Apple ID. He has one Apple ID. He has used it consistently. He has not, let it drop by the wayside. We go to put his password in. It says, no, that's not the right password. Okay. Now, we were logging in via the App Store. When we tried the same thing through iTunes, it took it. Okay. If we used his Apple ID to log into iCloud through a web browser, it took it. But the App Store wouldn't take it, and iBooks wouldn't take it, and there was one other, I think it was iTunes University wouldn't take it. And this was an instance where, okay, you ready? The credit card information for his account, he had updated it with iTunes, but had never logged in and updated that credit card information with the App Store. Now, in a rational world, we would say, well, wait a minute, it's all. But they're different divisions and they have different servers, and those servers don't update their information instantaneously. So what we ended up having to do was, through going into iCloud and then saying, we wanted to troubleshoot his Apple ID and check his information, and using that central point, the iCloud interface, made sure that we re-updated his credit card information, and then it percolated through the system, and it would work on the other things.
Well, one last thought on that thing with screen sharing. And to give you an idea how flexible it is, I took the MacBook Pro, connected to the iMac, which then connected to the MacBook.
Yeah.
So you can daisy chain this stuff. But I think what
And that's
happened
dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
And that's dangerous.
Oh, yeah. I just did it once, and I, don't need to anymore. What I think happened is you'll see the screen of the computer you're on, and then you also see the screen of the computer you're using. What I think happened is I got the screens confused and was giving commands to the wrong one. And it got so fouled up that all three computers could not log in. So then we got into the thing creating a new password, and it's worked out well. But
Yeah. When you need to remotely control another computer, and yes, I know, your desk is here and the other desk is here, but for the purposes of this, that's considered to be remotely controlling. There's a program that I use that is free for non-commercial use. It's called Team Viewer. Team Viewer. Teamviwer. And what's really nice about Team Viewer is that you have to have it installed on all the computers, but it will also allow me to remotely control a PC or a Linux computer, or from an iPad to control a Mac or a Linux or a PC computer. Okay, Team Viewer.
The University of Dayton blocks that now because of some security risks in recent
Yeah,
months.
it's not something you want, if you're on your own land, okay, not a problem. If you're using it to control machines remotely, I don't have it where you automatically log in. It's where you have to, yeah, go ahead.
I've had Microsoft support call me up
Yeah.
And that's what they wanted to start with, is putting that in.
Oh, see, with me, it's always they want to do Cisco GoToMeeting, and I think
Must be
Cisco,
different
whoever owns
divisions,
GoToMeeting,
Microsoft support.
but they always want to put one of those on, because then they have remote control of them.
But
So
don't
there's
you
a
want
variety
the
of
computer have to be at both, have somebody at both computers in order to type in the code to gain the access?
If you set it up for remote control access, you can set it up so that your base machine remembers these other machines and it's allowed to connect to them. When I'm using it with a customer, I don't want to be able to log into a customer's computer whenever I feel like it.
I think you have to give permission in the dialogue.
Yeah, what
to the
happens
viewer,
is
but
it
of
generates
course,
you have to,
the session.
you can create a conference call with them through this app, and they have to tell you what the security code is on that side.
With Apple Care, when they'll say, can I see your screen, and you
Yeah.
connect, all they can do is move a little pointer and say, click on this, or do this, or whatever. They can't control anything.
TeamViewer allows me to actually change things. I'm running the computer from a remote
I
location.
see, okay.
So,
I'm
if
gonna look
I'm
into that.
here and my father's up in Chicago, and he calls me up and he says, it says that Flash needs to be updated. Is it okay for me to click on the button? I'm going to say, hold on a minute. Let me log in and look. And then I go, oh, hell no. Because it's fake Flash. It's like fake news, fake Flash.
Yeah.
It's bad stuff.
I do that even with ones I trust that I,
Yeah, but you run into a problem when you do, this Mac is screen sharing this one, which is screen sharing that one. You can get a recursion effect, and everything gets boogered up, and it falls down like a house of
I
cards.
tried that once. I have no need to do it again.
Okay. Now, if you had it where, from the MacBook Pro to the iMac, from the MacBook Pro to the other laptop, from the MacBook Pro to the PC, that's okay. It's when you try to daisy chain them
Yeah,
that,
okay.
Let me go to the back of the room first. You've been so patient.
Well, thank you. I may have missed this because I came in late. When are new iMacs coming out?
Last I heard, February or March.
There's no date yet.
But I'll tell you, if
It's been a while.
it's going to be a little while yet.
But I need one and I don't want to buy it now and then a couple months later have the new.
Have you seen what they did to the new MacBooks and MacBook Pros with the touch? It's like I'm not real. Okay, this is me just kvetching, but I have a feeling, a very strong feeling, that Apple is losing its way. I feel like Gil Amelio is running the shop again, where they don't understand what true innovation actually is. They think if you make it thinner and less weight, that's innovation. And I'm sorry, but at a certain point, you've made something too thin and too light. Example that I would use is flash drives. I had a conversation this morning about it. I had a conversation yesterday about it. One of these itty bitty, it's smaller than my thumbnail.
Yeah.
Okay, flash drive. Okay. And there's no way you can put a ribbon on it
Right.
today. Yeah. And my wife was looking for her notes that she needed to take with her to her university class. And she said, have you seen my flash drive? And I said, oh, the big one over there? No, it's the new one and it's this long and we still don't know where it is. So sometimes the design component is not following form and function.
Right.
Yeah, the term for Apple hardware these days is anorexic.
Okay. But it does mean, if you're talking about laptop design, you have a lot of things crammed into that laptop. Okay. And you can make it smaller if you go to an all-metal case where the entire case is your heatsink. But at a certain point, you're going to be cooking those components and you're not going to get the longevity of the device that you would have in the past. And that's another thing. I don't think they're building them to last anymore. And yes, I know, I sound like the grumpy old man. But that's my true opinion.
Did you say that the battery is soldered in or as a component is soldered
Glued in.
there?
They're glued in, and they're less and less where you can do anything with it,
So you have
and less where they can do anything with it.
so
So it's becoming the
when
disposable.
that battery goes.
Yeah. Yeah, or, you know, I'm old school. It's like, okay, let's open it up. Okay, we'll take that graphics card out, we'll put this one in. Oh, let's put a new chill fan on it. Okay, more RAM. Oh, take those hard drives out, we'll put these in. Yeah, okay. You know, you can take a unit that is from the 1990s, but if you're doing upgrades on it, and every so often you replace a motherboard. You know, and you've got something that's a gaming machine today, you know, wicked things. Well, you can't do that if it's designed where you can't do anything to it. Okay, we'll go to Ron Decker.
Time capsule.
Sure.
I bought one and I recently fired it up, a 3 terabyte guy, and
Okay.
I didn't see an easy way to partition it. I would like to use part of it as time machine backup, but I'd like to use part of it to store other files. Is there an easy way to do that?
Okay, now, you want to partition it because you want to use it for data and time machine?
Yes.
So like as a NAS, a network accessible storage, and also time machine?
Yeah, when I fired it up, I didn't notice any options to do that.
That's
kind of thing.
because Apple doesn't think that's a best practice.
Oh,
They want you, if it's a time capsule, time machine, they want you to use it for just time machine. And for the most part, I would agree with them on that. However, okay, there's a USB port on the back of that time capsule.
right.
And you can put either a printer or another device, storage device
Another
on
hard
there.
drive, yeah.
And that's typically the way to do it.
Okay. What, the club uses similar device here.
No longer. We're now using just their Wi-Fi.
Okay.
We did at one point have at one point it was a time capsule and it died, so then we just replaced it with just a plain old Airport Extreme. And then we would plug a regular USB hard drive into the back of that, and then we would set it up.
That's
for
how
it.
you got access to the club files.
Okay.
Isn't that a recent news story that Apple got out of the time capsule airport business?
Well, they're still selling this
Yeah.
stuff. It's just the people who were responsible for the design and improvement of the product have all been let go.
Storage device.
Okay, so, okay, Ron, if you want to do this and you want to have control over it, you buy yourself a TP-Link 1700 AC wireless router that's got like 3 USB ports, and they're all USB 3. No, so there's 3 USB 3 ports, and you can plug in all sorts of
Plug in
stuff.
all kinds of these little hockey puck.
Well, not just hockey pucks, you know,
Right.
2 terabyte, 3 terabyte, you know, Western Digital or Seagate drive with its own power supply, plug it in there, good to go. Okay. Or you can just buy one of the NAS units that's out there. Okay. But typically, if it's a time capsule, it's meant to be used for time machine, and that's all.
Yeah.
Or conversely, not for time machine, just used as an external storage device. You don't want to mix the two. It's a recipe for disaster. And it has to do with the way time machine does stuff. It grabs space
Right.
without looking for what else is there.
Even if it's partitioned.
Even if it's partitioned, it will sometimes do that.
All right.
Okay?
Along that same line, can you back up 2 computers on one time capsule?
Yes.
Okay.
You can also back up 2 computers using one Western Digital or Seagate mobile drive.
Okay.
So I bought a 3 terabyte drive, and of course I bought it just before the price decreased. So I bought the 3 terabyte drive, and I formatted it for Mac. I plug it into my wife's MacBook Pro. I say, hey, time capsule, or excuse me, time machine, backup. It creates a backup for that machine. And I take it over to the iMac in the family room, same deal, back up onto it. And then the next one, back up onto that. And if I wasn't so lazy, what I could have done was set up and plugged it into a wireless router and then have them access it over the network. Okay, who else do we have? I have some, yes, Kathy.
I just found it a couple days ago, now I can't find it. How do I increase the type on the desktop?
Increase type on the desktop.
Sorry.
Okay.
I know, I just found it because I did it.
Okay.
I can't find it.
Let me just do this real quick. I just need to get some stuff out of the way. I think what you're looking for is going to be your preferences in Finder.
That's too much. In Finder?
Yeah, they keep moving. I may be wrong here. I am wrong. I am wrong. At one point, somewhere around MacOs 7 or 8, you could do it that way. So instead, we're going to say View Options. Okay, yeah, now I'm actually channeling reality. Okay, so you're in Finder, okay? And you go over to where it says View in the menu bar.
Hey, wait a minute, let me get Finder.
Okay, just click on your screen.
Yeah.
Okay, and you go down to View, to where it says View Options. So you get this little window. And this is where we can control the size of the icons, their spacing, and also, to a certain extent, the text size. So they don't give you an infinite number. You can go from 10 point up to 16 point. Okay. The other way to quickly get to that
Yeah,
is
but
to
that's
do,
not the
if you're in
desktop.
Finder, is to go a command, the Apple key, Command J. That'll also bring up those settings.
You what?
Command J, the Apple key and the letter J will bring it up if you're in Finder.
Yeah, but
Yes, it did.
that's on the hard drive, not on the desktop.
If you want it for a
If you
particular
click on the
window.
desktop, then Control J, Command J.
View options. I'm waiting for some sort of
Okay.
signal. Is it working? You got it?
Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
that's the important part. Okay, so was there anybody else? Otherwise, I'm going to say, why don't we do raffle? As soon as everybody gets settled down, we'll start up the presentation. Okay. All the standard yada, yada, yada. By the way, you know, I think, I know you would like to see someone else present. So I'm going to make that my #1 priority to get some other presenters in. Because I've been the one presenting for straight for a couple of years now.
I could present on how to install a Blu-ray drive.
Okay.
Regular mini presentations, just 10-minute shots.
Sure. I'd be open to that.
Bill?
You would be surprised at just how much you folks know. Yes?
The time you were sick, I think, or
Yes.
you were gone for some reason, and we just had an open forum, that was a very interesting day.
Well, maybe we should do that one time just to give me a break. Okay, with that said, Apple Photos processing, what you need to know. Notice I'm using a word processing instead of editing. Technically, if I change a date in the metadata for a photo, I'm editing it. If I change the format of the photo, I'm editing it. So if I change it from a JPEG to a TIFF or a TIFF to something else, I'm editing. So I'm talking about processing your photos. The stuff, it's the holidays, you've taken all these pictures of grandkids or other loved ones, and now they're sitting there and you go, you know, I need to do something with these. This is what I'm talking about, processing the photos. Now to be able to do that, you got to have a good working knowledge of the basic edit tools in the macOS Photos application. I'm assuming you're using Photos as your main photo program. So you need to know which tools to use. But the other thing is when to use them. What's the process? So I'm going to go through the tools so you know what the purpose of the different tools are. And then I'm going to go through a couple photos the way I would normally do it. So you get to see me actually process them. Okay. So, the tools. Went too fast. Okay, so these are the tools that are in Photos. Now, when I say Photos, I'm talking about Apple Photos application for Mac OS. Okay. Auto Enhance, Rotate, Crop, Filters, Adjustments, Retouch, Fix Red Eye. There are some tools that you will use continuously. There are some tools you'll only touch once in a blue moon. The ones you're going to use, what I call ivory soak time, 99 and 94 100% of the time. In other words, they're the ones you're going to use all the time. It's going to be Auto Enhance, Rotate, Crop, and Fix Red Eye. Those are the ones you're going to normally use. Okay? So with that said, let's start walking through them. I just want to make sure that you know which ones to pay more attention to. Auto Enhance. Okay. Nobody takes a perfect picture, except maybe Skip Peterson, the guy, a photographer I know, and Ron Albee. They take perfect pictures. They make art with photons. But for the rest of us, it's stuff you may not have the shading right, you may not have the composition right. So the number one tool I go to is Auto Enhance. And what's really nice about Auto Enhance is you click the Enhance button. Boom. And the computer does it. Now, the other thing to remember is that with all of these tools, you tell it to do it. If you don't like it, you tell it to undo it. All right, so none of this stuff is one way, written in stone. It's all permeable. It's all undoable. So the Auto Enhance tool. Next one, I use all the time because I can remember which way I'm supposed to hold the iPad or the camera. I always have my stuff rotated the wrong way when I'm looking at it in my program. And that's rotate. Rotate the photo this way or that way so that it's a normal orientation. The rotate command. Now, by default, when you click rotate, it does it counterclockwise. If I remember, let's see. Counterclockwise by default. If you hold down your Option key when you click rotate, it does it clockwise. So instead of having to make 3 right turns or 3 left turns to get it right, you can just hold down the Option key and get it to do that. If you're really into keyboard commands, you can just do a Command R in Photos or Option Command R, and that'll do the same thing without having to go through the whole interface. Another tool that you're going to use, not as much as Rotate and Auto Enhance, but you'll get a lot of use out of, is Crop. Now, crop is more than just cropping a photo, and that would be picking what part of a photo you want to keep and what part you don't want. Crop actually does 2 things. It'll straighten crooked photos, and it'll also change the composition of a photo. So it's not just cropping it, you can move stuff around to change where your focal point is. And you can also straighten crooked photos. Next one is filters. This one is sort of, I only use it once in a while. It's not something you're going to use every day. So this is like you're taking a picture with a camera and you're putting a filter in front of it to change the tonal quality of the light coming in. So they've got basically your black and white effects, so there's 3 of those. Moody color palettes. They're actually fade, process, and instant. Yeah, they're color palettes. And then there's color enhancers, chrome and transfer. Because we've had different film technology. So if it was Kodachrome, and they can't say Kodachrome because that's trademarked, so they just say chrome. A picture that's taken with that kind of film, you just can spot it right away. Same thing with the other one, which is transfer color. So those are filters that you use once in a while. Typically, if I'm doing like a slideshow for an organization and we've had members that passed away, I'll use a different tone filter for the members that passed away. So that, you know, you're being subtle, but, you know, it's sort of like you can see that, you know, as you're doing the slideshow. This is the most complicated one of the group, and that's adjustments. And there's about, let's say, 12 different factors that you can adjust, and within each of those 12 different factors, there's at least 6 to 7 sub-factors you can change. When we get to the actual using of the tool, you'll see what I mean. But the key, that I want to say it once now and once again, is when you first start out, all they're showing is black and white, color, and then there's another one which is brightness, if I remember correctly. There's an add button that then shows you all these other things that you can also have in your adjustments menu. It just, they know that if you saw all of the adjustment tools at once, it would just overwhelm you and you'd never go near it. Another one that I use not too often, it's almost always when I'm scanning stuff in and it's older photographs or newspaper articles and there's imperfections in it and I want to clean it up. And that's the retouch tool. And again, it's in terms of the software technology, retouch is really a brush tool. What you're saying is, look at the space around the spot that I'm focusing on the photograph and use the space around it to undo this blemish that's there. And it's a pretty good tool for doing some dust removal from photographs. You know, where you've got just sort of noise out there, and it's a good tool. The problem is that it's not good if you have a lot of noise in it because it's really meant to handle 1 or 2 spots. Not really meant for handling an entire photograph that's really noisy. There's other things called extensions and plugins that you can get that'll take care of that. And then fix red eye. Okay. I have blue eyes. If you use a flash and you take my picture, it looks like I'm summoning the gates of hell from within my eyeballs. My eyes will glow a demonic red. Fix red eye takes care of that. It automatically corrects for red eye. And it's really neat the way they've done it, and they've really pumped up the capabilities of that particular tool greatly. Okay, so now I'm at the point where I'm ready to fire up photo and actually walk through these with real photographs. Before I do that, any questions? Yes, Rick?
Will you be covering the feature where, like, I've taken a picture of you and I want to get rid of all the background and put a different something else behind it?
That would be a feature that's not really available in Photos.
Okay.
That's something you would be using Adobe Photoshop Elements or Adobe Photoshop, or GIMP would be another program that you could do, and it's called masking technology. It's similar to chroma key technology used in video.
Well, I've been hunting something. I've done it the hard way by individually going around an object and putting that person in a different location.
Yeah.
And I'm looking for a good one.
Okay. All right, with that said, I'm going to hit escape here, bounce out of that, and bring up photos real quick.
Bill, question back here.
Sure.
What about previews, editing capabilities versus photo? Do you have a couple words to say on that? In preview, you can go and enhance some pictures.
Yeah,
a little.
typically, when I'm using preview, I'm using it to annotate a screenshot, because I need it for a class
Yeah, the text.
situation. Or I'm using it to put together multiple photographs into a PDF, and I want them in a particular order. And preview does a really good job of, letting you do that. But I don't really do much photo editing using preview because the tools are very, crude.
Right.
Okay. Now, the other one that I'll do is I'll take PowerPoint. I know this sounds weird. You're taking PowerPoint, bring a photo into it, and there's some pretty nice photo editing tools in PowerPoint where I can crop, I can resize, I can blur, I can. But typically, preview, no.
Generally, all I've done is change the exposure a little bit, lighten and darken. They give you a white balance map. And you
Yeah.
can shift things around
See,
and make it look a little bit better.
What I learned is that not to trust my judgment anymore. Because, I'll get in there and I'll start fiddling with sliders and such, and then I go, oh, hey, it took me 45 minutes and I've got a photo that still looks like crap.
Yep.
Okay. If I do auto enhance and I just click the button and I go like, hey, yeah, that's probably better than what I could have gotten myself.
Well, I've been using preview just for expediency. It's easy to just open something in there and get it good enough
Yeah.
to do a Command Shift 4, grab something off of a screen.
And what I'll do is, when I get finished today, I'll go take a look at the image editing tools in preview. Because, it's like, it's been donkey years since I did a slideshow in preview. A lot of people don't realize you can create slideshows in preview, you can create slideshows in photos, you can create slideshows in photo booth, you can create slideshows in, it'll come to me, not GarageBand, iMovie. Okay, good, of course, iMovie, it's video, yeah. So there's all sorts of different ways you can create these. It's just, you fall into a certain set of habits, and you learn how something works, and then you stick with it. But I'll take a look at preview. All right. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go to all photos here. Now, to make these photos appear a little bit bigger on the screen, up here, up on their not right below the menu bar, if I drag them this way or that way, I can make them a little bit larger, a little bit smaller. So let's start with this first one. Now, in photos, click on a photo, press return, it'll take you into edit mode. Okay, so here we got a sweet little thing. Doesn't show up that much on the screen, but she's got a bad case of red eye. Red eye. On the side of the screen are your tools. Enhance, rotate, crop, filters, adjust, retouch, red eye, extensions. If I apply one of these tools, it doesn't immediately bounce me out of edit. So I can apply a rotate and a crop and then clean up red eye. I probably wouldn't do it in that order. But so you can do multiple tools on the same photograph to get your result. Okay. So when I process stuff after the holidays, typically what I start out with is I look through the photos and I first delete the stuff that looks to be, crap. Just delete the stuff. Once I've gotten that out of the way, then I look at the ones that I call the weak sisters, the ones that look like They may be a good photograph, but I'm going to have to do something with them. Okay, so let's do the red eye tool here. So I come on down and I click on red eye. Now, down here in the lower right, I've got an auto button and a reset button. If I want to manually do it, I would move the slider up and down until the size of the circle was close to what the size of the red eye was. And then I would bring it out and put it over the eye and click. You know what? That's too much trouble. It's so much easier to just click the auto button. And it did it. Found both eyes, corrected the red eye. Just by clicking auto. Here, I'll reset it again. So now we've got revert to original. Now we got our red eye back. To do it manually, I got to come out, I got to get it positioned just right, I got to click on it, then I got to go do the other one. So that took almost 8 seconds for me to do it manually. So much better to just say, hey, auto. We're done. Let's move on to the next photo. Okay, so here we've got a photo. First thing I notice is, it's sort of a kilter a little bit. And, you know, it probably could be cleaned up a little bit. So, first thing I'm going to do, go up to my first tool, the thing that sort of looks like a magic wand, that's the Auto Enhance. And I just click on that and let it do its thing. And doesn't show it on the screen up there, but over here, I think it actually did a nice job of cleaning that up pretty well. All right, now let's try and get the photo cropped and get it straightened. So if I just do my rotate tool, see, that's not going to get me where I want to be. I want to just nudge it. I don't want to rotate it the whole way around. So let's click on crop. So now we've got our crop tool. I've got an inclinometer over here, so if I want to, I can manually move things. And as I move it, you start to get these grid lines that'll help you straighten things up by either columns or the ground level. So I'm going to do it like that. That doesn't look too bad. I'm going to tell it to revert back to original. Or I could have just clicked on the auto button and let it do it. Again, I'm lazy. Hit the auto button. Now, we have some other things that we can do in here. So, for example, there's an aspect tool. Okay, so I know it's hard to see this stuff. Gray, black figures on a black screen, but I'm down here. So aspect would be, all right, do I want this to be a square photo? Do I want it to be, you know, the original of what it was? Do I want it to be 3x2, 8x10, 5x7, all the standard sizes? So if I select one of those, like square, here, we'll do square. Okay. It automatically closed in on it, and now, if I put my pointer in the middle of the photo and I drag it around, I can adjust it slightly. So I've got the pointer, right in the middle of the photo, and now I'm just going to move this around just a little bit. Let's see, do I want that pot? Yeah, like that. Okay, so fine adjustment in terms of your horizon and be able to crop it the way you want it. There's also another feature down here, and that's the flip. So we just flip the photo over. This tool you use when you've got, you took a picture of something and it's got lettering in it, but it looks like it's in a mirror. You can use the flip tool to make it come around so it's readable. It all depends on, you know, how the camera handles certain things when they bring in the light. So that's the crop tool. So crop doesn't just do crop. Okay, so let's go to another one. So here we've got a picture of an airplane. It could use a little bit of a punch up. Let's click on enhance. Here, we'll do this one instead. Let me click done,
Oh, there it is.
go back in, click on enhance. Okay. Okay. On my screen, boom, it pumped up the color, made it look much nicer. Now let's maybe do a filter here. All right, so when we're in your filters, this is none is at the top, then you've got your monochrome filter. You've got your tonal filter, noir, fade, chrome, process, transfer, and instant. And instant is, they can't use the word Polaroid, but that's the sort of tonal quality that a Polaroid photograph. It's the filter. All right, let me say done. Let's go back up. Yes?
Can you take a black and white photo and colorize it?
No. Not easily. That's a more complicated process. Eventually, they'll have it where you can do it, but not today. But you can take color photographs and make them black and white. Sometimes you want to do that. You're doing a presentation. Okay, this is going to sound morbid, but typically I'm only doing this kind of stuff for weddings and funerals. Okay, memorial services and weddings. So let's say it's a memorial service, and everything you've got of them is black and white except for one or two color shots. And you really want it to be a more consistent, so you'll take the color shots and turn them into a black and white. Okay. But good question.
They had fade. Do they have something? I recently scanned in a photo, went back to some old photos, and they had kind of shifted to reddish and stuff like that. Is there appropriate tools for
Yeah.
trying to
Let me grab something here.
unfade?
Okay, so what you're talking about would not be auto enhance. It wouldn't be rotate, wouldn't be crop, wouldn't be filters, it would be adjust. And this is the one that's one of the more complicated tools. I'm going to click on adjust. Now, when adjust comes up, it's just showing me three things: light, color, and black and white. And if I drag, I can make that picture lighter, I can make the color bolder, and if I'm doing black and white, if I click on that, it'll turn it to black and white. But within each of those things, so I'm going to bring my pointer up here onto light, and right next to it, we've got a little black box where we can reset or remove the adjustment. And next to that is the arrow. And if we click on the arrow, let's zoom in here. And again, Apple has decided that gray type on a black screen is really good for visibility. So what I did was I clicked on this little arrow here, and all of a sudden it's allowing me to change brilliance, exposure, highlights, shadows, brightness, contrast, and black point, all within that one tool. I have no idea why Avast is coming up like that. So take it down and say, hey, don't offer again, go away. Thank you. Conversely, if I click on it again, get it to hide, hit open up for color, I've got saturation, contrast, and cast. And then for black and white, there's some other subfields within that. So this starts to get complicated real quick. You've got 7 different factors that... But, wait, there's even more complication available. And again, we're in adjustments. Up at the top, next to the word adjustments, there's a small dark blue button that says add. Me, if I was doing the interface, I would have made that yellow so somebody could see it. If I click on add, and again, we're in the adjustments tool, and I'm going to zoom in again. So I clicked on the add button. Oh, they've got all these other adjustments that are available to me, and all I have to do is click in front of them. Histogram is not really an adjustment, but it shows you the histogram path of the photo. So it's sort of like an overall view of the technical aspects of the photo. Light, color, and black and white have the check marks in front of them. You can also have sharpen, definition, noise reduction, vignette, white balance, levels, and if you click the bottom, when you have things checked, it'll always show those in your adjustment tool. Remember when we were talking about retouch? If you've got all of this splooches in a photo, you'd want to use the noise reduction tool in adjustments rather than, 5 hours with the retouch tool.
What is vignette?
Hmm?
What is vignette?
Oh, vignette. Vignette and mats. It's where you've got, here, it's easier for me to just show you. Okay, let me click on vignette. So now I have a vignette. And I'm going to unclick light and color. Just leave those alone. I'm going to do a vignette. And let's see, I'm going to tell it to do an auto. Okay, and let me zoom back out. I'll do it manually.
Good person.
Yeah, what it's doing is, from the outside edges, it's darkening the photo so that you're, you've got mats and vignettes where you've got, okay.
In real photography, if your lens is not the right size for your film format, you'll get the vignetting.
Yeah.
Is where that comes from. This is allowing you to put that in there, usually on portraits or something. It'll.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. It's another way of, for example, let's say you've got this picture of this lovely newlywed couple, and there's 2 horses going at it in the background. Okay. You can use a vignette tool and a blur tool to where you don't see the horses at all. You're focused on the couple. Or conversely, if you're, a horse breeder, you might,
That might be good.
blur and vignette the horses.
Would white balance be a way to correct color if you have something in the shot that's white? Would you those white?
I'd be in,
We dropped it.
no, it'd be in light. Light, and it's going to be,
No, it was a more thing. Collapse everything out.
the problem I run into is that unlike Adobe Lightroom and Adobe Photoshop Elements, where you have a manual and they go into details about what you would use which tool for what, Apple is more of a, well, it sounds good and you really don't need to know that.
It just works.
So let me go ahead and just hit return and then hit return, and I'm back viewing my others. Let's go back this way. All right, so I've got a picture I've selected. I'm holding a command key and I'm doing R, and I just rotated it while it was in the selection. Here's another one. I'm going to do an option command R to rotate that one up. Now I'm going to take this one just to show you the retouch tool. Okay, so I've got the picture displayed. If I hit return, it'll take me into edit mode. But if you forget that, and you're looking for which one of these icons means edit, it's going to be the one where you see 3 lines of what look like abacus stones on it. They don't give you the word edit anymore. So that one right there is where you would click to edit. I just hit the return button. Yeah, they look like sliders. Okay, so here's a old style test pattern, and you can see I've got some gobbledygook over here that doesn't belong there. So I'm going to use the retouch tool. Okay, so retouch is right above red eye. Now, I've got a slider. If I make the slider all the way up to the top, then my circle is going to be absolutely huge. So what I want to do is match the size of the circle that I'm going to use pretty much with the space. I'm coming in here. Think of it, it's like, you know, Mr. Clean Magic Eraser.
How did it pick white?
Yeah, good question.
It's looking at what the backdrop was around it. So you've got a circle on top of the photograph, and it's sampling what the average color is.
Okay.
Now, what I need to do there is to make it a little bit smaller and increase the size of this. And then I need to, oh, excuse me, come in here and do that. Okay, I got it.
Could you color that in if you want?
Sure, just not with this program. You're thinking of the paint bucket tool, which was in Paint, and there's a paint bucket tool in Photoshop, and there's a fill tool, they call it, F-I-L-L, not P-H-I-L, a fill tool, and you could say, oh, select this color, and in this border, put that color. Not in Apple Photos.
That's a lot of fun to play with if you're wanting to pick a black and white and do something with
Okay, so let's look at, let me grab one other thing here just real quick. Looking at my time. Let's get back to the demo. Okay, so we'll take a picture like that. I'll just say auto enhance it. And it makes a dramatic difference on my screen. And it actually made a dramatic difference there. Notice that at the right above the menu bar, I've got where I can be clicking on individual photographs. So that's another quick way to womp through. So you pick your enhance tool, do the next one, do the next one. Here, that one's, we would use an enhance tool on that. Yeah, that's another one that could probably use the enhance tool. There we go. Now this was one that I rotated, and it just, because of the background, you want her flesh to glow a little bit. Enhance tool works really nice for that. Here we've got one that would be a rotate. Oh, she doesn't look like a happy camper. Here's another one that we would enhance. So again, this is not some sort of laborious process I'm doing. You're just doing a quick move through the photographs. If I see something that needs a little bit of cleanup, do it. Do an enhance on that, brighten it up. Enhance on that, brighten it up. And I'd probably also crop this one. Get some of the upper sky off of it. So let's say just crop, aspect, make it square, move the boats around a little bit. Notice those lines that came up where you've got 9 boxes. There's a theory that a photograph will be more appealing to the human eye if the center of focus for the photograph, the thing you want them to look at, is at the one of those 4 intersections. So you mess around with your composition a little bit there. So what I was doing was just moving those boats up so that they were at the intersection of those 2 lines. Now let's see what we got next. Oh, definitely that one needs an enhance. Let me click there. Click on enhance. Find another one. Yeah, that's one. Oh, okay. Yeah, it definitely needs an enhance. It's underexposed. Oh my, we need to do something with this one. Now, it needs to be leveled off, so when you see something, think crop. And I'm just going to hit the auto level function and see if it does anything with it. And it really didn't, so I'll just manually do this. Now, there are times when you really want to have a photograph be Holta-Volta kilter, but having it more of a straight line across, that actually is more appealing to the eye for most people. Less distracting. That particular street in Brooklyn, however, happens to be one where it's actually on a slight incline.
You could tell
That's
that by
why you
looking at
can't
that
get the
barrel on the
sidewalk
right.
and the brick line to line up.
Bill,
Yeah,
if you look at the barrel on the right, and it's tilting.
yeah. Because it's like in San Francisco, you have some streets that go up, that particular, in Brooklyn, yeah, they're out in Long Island, it goes up a little bit. All right, here's another example. Now notice, to be able to do a tool, I've got to click out of the one that I'm in and click into the one that I want. Okay, this one's okay, but it's got red eye. And again, I'll just tell it to auto red eye. See, I don't want to have to do 8 sets of eyes. By clicking that auto button, let me revert it to the original. And boom, it did 4 sets of eyes. Just, yeah, it's a more efficient way to do it. Over here, again, I gotta click on that to get out of it, and then click on that to get into it. There we go.
Will the red eye tool do eyes even if they're not red?
Yeah, you can use it to, but then you have to do it manually. You have to go in manually and. And if you're trying, like you're putting pupils in that don't appear, I've had some photographs where the eyes are completely black. I don't know how I did it. I managed to do it. So I wanted to put whites in the eyes. I ended up having to do it in Adobe Photoshop Elements because it has a more versatile set of tools than Apple has. Last but not least, there's one more set down here, and that's where it says extensions. So there's only one extension that's built into Photos, and that's the markup tool. So this would be your 1910, you just got an editor for a newspaper, the photographer just gave you a photograph, and you say, okay, who are these people? And with your silver ink at the bottom of the photo, you're writing Marshall Falk, Ambassador Herrick, and Woodrow Wilson, so that you have it notated down at the bottom, because they didn't do taglines back then. You just didn't have computer technology. So if I wanted to do markup, let's see, let's pick something where we've got, we do a cancel here. Here we go, okay. Let's say I want to do markup. It means I could come in here and then I could say,
Good dog.
yeah, good dog, or I could draw an arrow, whatever. I could put a rectangle on it. I could put text on it. So a markup tool is taking the annotation tools of Preview and putting them into Photos. You can also buy extensions for the Apple Photos program, for the macOS, and for iOS. And there's several that Mark Georges has told me about that he's used quite a bit. One of which, remind me again, the one that gives you many of the features.
Aperture.
It's called, yeah.
It's called Raw Power.
Raw Power. It's a extension you can buy that will allow Photos to have many of the things that Apple's Aperture had. Aperture was the professional photography program that they killed. If you were a professional photographer and you were using a Mac, you'd be using Aperture. And I can't tell you how incredibly irritated the photography community that uses Macs got when they killed Aperture. It was not a good thing for them to do, because Aperture allowed you to do workflow. So let's say you make your living taking pictures of weddings. You could easily contain the different jobs that you were doing. You know, you're taking several weddings the same day. You could easily identify which job, which photo was taken, where, when, why, how, and then be able to incorporate it into your website easily from within Aperture. And they killed that program. So, okay. So the purpose of the presentation was to expose you to these editing tools and to give you an idea of what the purpose was for each tool. And lastly, but not least, to give you an idea of what's the process that you go through. So again, when I process photos, the first thing I do is I look at the photos and I throw away the ones that are complete crap. Get them out of my system now. I'm not going to use them. Okay. Where are my weak sisters? The photos that, for some reason, I want to keep it, and I might have to do a lot of stuff to get it to where it's up to snuff. Then I roll through what's left, and I hit everything with Auto Enhance, looking to see what the result is. Auto Enhance, sometimes it looks better, sometimes it looks worse. If it looks better, I keep it. If it looks worse, I revert. Then I would go through and do all my rotations, and then I would do my cropping and my fine tuning. And I almost never touch filters or adjustments because I'm a coward and my brain isn't big enough to hold all that photography stuff that you need to know about how to do the alpha maps and all. Someday I'll get brave and I'll play with them a little bit. So, did I do okay?
Great.
Except Ron wants me to use a preview. Okay.